So the most interesting thing that Jenny Han did with her book series was to subvert the Cain and Abel trope. Hi, my name is Sybil. This is Take 254, and this is a spoiler review of Season 2 of The Summer I Turned Pretty on Amazon Prime. So if you're not familiar with this, the Cain and Abel trope is where you have two brothers who are polar opposites, and usually it's the older brother who is jealous of a younger brother who is better than them in some particular area or receives favor with the parents or the society and such. And in pop culture, some examples we have is Stefan and Damon Salvatore from the Salvatore brothers from the Vampire Diaries series. And we also have Dean and Sam Winchester from the Supernatural series, where you have Dean, who is so insecure and jealous of Sam, and you have Damon, who is always competing and insecure and jealous of Stephen. And it comes from the Bible, where you had Cain and Abel, and Abel was favored by God, and Cain was jealous of Abel, and he was the older brother, and he ended up killing Abel because of his jealousy. And it's a common theme that comes up throughout the Bible too, where you have older siblings, usually the brothers who are jealous of the younger brother. Also with Joseph, he had his 10 brothers who are jealous of him, and they sold him to slavery. And we also have with in the New Testament, where you had the parable Jesus gave of the prodigal son, where you had the older son who was a good little boy. He stayed home, did everything his dad wanted, but you had the younger brother who went off out into the world and explored and did all this crazy stuff. And then he comes back to his father's home, and the father bestows all this favor upon him and is so excited and throws this huge party because he came back home. And you have the older brother feeling jealous and envious of him because he's like, I've been so good all this time, but you favored my younger brother over me. So it's a common theme we see throughout pop culture, and that's where it comes from. It comes from the Bible. So it's a Cain and Abel trope. And with Jenny Han, she reversed it. She has the younger brother, that's Jeremiah, be jealous of the older brother, who is Conrad. And so Conrad is the one who is loved by everyone. Even in the family, he always feels like Conrad is the favorite. I know in the books and even in the series, they say it explicitly, where it's like Conrad is the father's favorite and Jeremiah is the mother's favorite. But I have to be honest, on the show, The Summer I Turned Pretty, I feel like they treat Conrad as the favorite throughout. Even Susanna seems to favor Conrad too. So it's just overall, Jeremiah just always feels insecure and inferior to his brother, and he plays second fiddle to his brother. Even in the family dynamic, you can see that they just treat Jeremiah kind of like an overly familiar pool boy who just came to family dinners one day and it became too awkward to kick him out, and it's just become like this person who hangs around them out of sentimentality and familiarity, but they don't really seem to respect and value him or treat him with the same amount of consideration that they do Conrad. And it's not just the family, like the dad and the mom, it's just everyone on the show, even with Susanna's death in season 2. So we're picking up where Susanna has passed on, and this season is basically like a grieving season. It's just going through how all these different characters are dealing with the passing of Susanna after she lost her battle with cancer. And everyone in the show is always just concerned about what Conrad felt and how Conrad was affected by his mom's death, all the while forgetting that Jeremiah is also Susanna's son. He's the younger brother, and he stayed with his mom throughout her whole battle with cancer. So it's just interesting how in the show, everyone from the friends to the family always just takes Conrad's feelings into consideration, and Jeremiah is also always an afterthought to the characters. So the season overall, I'll say I preferred season 1 to season 2. Season 2 just felt, I understand because they were dealing with the grief, it just felt a lot smaller. Like season 1, because we are being introduced to this world as the audience, everything felt so new and so fresh. And Belly, our main character, who is also the love interest, she was interacting with all these new characters, because Belly was, so the book is called The Summer I Turned Pretty and the show is called The Summer I Turned Pretty too. And it's just basically how this girl who was an awkward looking little girl has blossomed into this attractive young woman, and how much that has changed how people view her and interact with her, and has opened up her life to this whole other side that she did not have access to because she was not viewed as attractive in society. So that was an interesting angle to write these books from and approach this show from. And in season one, because we are embarking on Belly, the character, just as she has come upon this newfound hotness, we as the audience get to explore everything with cousins and these boys, that Jeremiah and Conrad and Susanna and her mom, almost like new. She explores everything almost like a new character, because that's almost how she is, because of her beauty and all the opportunities and different dimensions she can explore now that she couldn't before. So you got her interacting with different people. She not only had one love interest, Jeremiah and Conrad, but she also had a third, Cam Cameron. Justice for Cam Cameron. We'll discuss him later on this review. And you also had this group of girls in the cotillion. So it just felt like there was just a whole world, and it was more expansive. Season two seems regressive when you compare it to season one. It just feels so much smaller. All those side characters just have less character development in season two. Like everything has taken a back seat to the love triangle between Belly, Conrad, and Jeremiah. And speaking of the love triangle, so I am actually a fan of love triangle. I feel like it gives the focus of the love an opportunity to like have their cake and eat it too, and just get to explore different sides of their personality. But the trick to love triangles, at least for me, is to know the timing and to also give equal character development to all the parties involved, so that it just feels like a close race. It does feel like you're torn as the audience, like who should I root for? Should I root for Jeremiah? Should I root for Conrad? But I gave in to my intrusive thoughts and I went on booktube and saw some reviews, spoiler reviews of the book series. So I already know how this is going to end and who Belly is going to end up with in the end. But you know, a series is a different medium from a book, so they can decide to go in a different direction. But from what I see in the comments of people who have read the books, it seems like season two, especially compared to season one, was pretty faithful to the book series. So it seems like for now they're sticking to the book and the decisions and that Jenny Han did in the book. So yeah, it looks like I already know how it's gonna play out and how the love triangle is gonna play out. And that's like the weakest it was the weakest aspect of season two, this love triangle, because it's pretty obvious. It's just so one-sided. Like you already know in season two how much Belly is in love with Conrad. The only reason why they broke up is because Conrad does this thing where he regresses into himself and pushes people away. And when his mother was going through it, Conrad pushed Belly away. So she broke up with him right after they had they attended her prom. And when they went to her prom, he forgot to bring her, what's that flower that you're supposed to bring? I've forgotten the name. There's that flower that you're supposed to bring. What's it called? He forgot it at his dorm in college. So he just was messing up the whole time. And all these were like foreshadowing their breakup, which happened right after they attended her prom. And the next time they end up seeing each other is at his mother's funeral, and that was also a disaster. So Belly was going up to comfort Conrad and take him up some food, and she just walked in on Conrad with an ex. and he was like lying on her lap and all that. So it just that scene looked crazy to Belly. It's like, you've been pushing me away when I want to be there for you at this, this hard time in your life, but you're willing and able to receive comfort from an ex and this other girl. So they ended up having this public fight in front of everyone, and it was really embarrassing for everyone involved. So that is the last time that Belly and Conrad interacted each other. And season 2 is basically picking up a few weeks after Susanna's death. So I hear different things. Some people say it's a month, some people say it's like 6 weeks. So it's like a few months, like 1 or 2 months after the mom has died. So things are pretty fresh with everything that has happened, that Belly and Conrad breaking up, the blow up at his mother's funeral, and Jeremiah just and Belly having not talked for a whole year. So when Belly chose Conrad over Jeremiah, he went ghost on her for a whole year, and that affected their friendship. And so they had lost touch for a whole year. And this season was Belly and Conrad rebuilding their friendship and ultimately trying to chart a course for themselves as a romantic couple. And so in the final episode of season 2, we have Belly choosing Jeremiah over Conrad, but it feels just like, I don't know what happened in this season. Like season 1, I felt the chemistry between the actors portraying Belly and Jeremiah. I felt that chemistry was really strong in season 1, which is why I was rooting for them. I was a jelly shipper. I was one of the jelly girls, but I'm gonna be honest, I'm flip-flopping. Now I'm back to well, not back. Now I've jumped ship and I've gone over to Belly and Conrad. I think they suit each other more. And this happened sometime around it happened around episode 4 of season 2 when they were at the fair, and you had Belly just having that flashback to her and Conrad being at the fair and how he won the polar bear toy for her. I felt like episode 4 of season 2 really solidified Belly and Conrad as endgame. Like, it was over for Jeremiah after that episode. Yeah, so I felt like episode 4 of season 2 was a turning point in the love triangle, and that's when I jumped ship from Jelly, that's Jeremiah and Belly, and went over to Jelly onto Belly and Conrad, because just the flashback as to how he went through all this trouble to win the polar bear for her, and also seeing the interaction when they decided to have a party to commemorate their time at Cousins at the beach house, when they hadn't managed to convince their aunt to not sell the beach house. So she had made up her mind and decided she was going to sell the beach house, and the kids were all sad and decided like it was Belly's idea to like celebrate just as a last hurrah to end their time at the Cousins beach house on a positive note. And so it was Belly, Conrad, and Jeremiah. They went over to, like, I guess the dollar store to buy supplies for the party, and we had Belly and Conrad just spending a lot of time with each other, and just the chemistry between the two of them, how they talked, it was so good. Especially like they were at the aisle just playing with each other, just low-key flirting. And when Jeremiah came and interrupted them at the dollar store when they were buying supplies, I just felt like, Jeremiah, get out of here. Like, why is your timing so bad? So there's just like something that happened between the actors. I'm not sure it was a decision that the showrunners decided to make to cool down the fire and kind of like bust the bubble of the Jeremiah and Belly shippers. And the chemistry between the actors portraying these two is just not there like it was in the first season. I feel like, I don't know if that's just the actors in real life, something happened, or if it was a decision the showrunners made so that the end game will be Belly and Conrad, and there will be a lot more backing for that coupling compared to the other one. So it just feels like there's something happened there. So I'm no longer team Jeremiah and Belly. I'm team Belly and Conrad. And really I'm team like Belly just finding some other people finding some other people to be with outside of these two boys that she's known since she was like 8 years old. Like, so that's the thing I really don't like about this show and the book series in general. Just this whole idea that this teenage girl has to be beholden to feelings she had when she was in the third grade. Like, it's okay for her to grow and discover and develop relationships with people who are not Conrad and his brother. Like, can she have other people in her life outside of these two guys? Again, this is one of the reasons why I liked season one. It just felt like Belly's world was bigger because she just stumbled upon this newfound beauty, and it opened up her life to a lot of new friendships and relationships and interactions with boys. Her life just felt bigger. Like, her life in season two just feels so small and revolves around mainly Conrad, but then towards the latter half of the season, now Jeremiah, and just trying to validate him and just take away some of the insecurity he feels about her relationship with Conrad. So it's just a lot of time spent thinking about these guys and just not enough getting to explore her as a character. And that leads me to all this belly hate that we have on the internet. So the thing with these type of stories where you have love triangles, these YA novels where you have this like brunette, it's usually a brunette character, main love interest, the girl, and she's not like other girls and all this. So people always complain about these female characters, how they're so boring, how they're so this and that. Well, that's intentional. Like, writers and showrunners do this so that they make these female characters as plain as possible, so that you, the audience, are supposed to like project yourself onto this character. So that's the reason why they do that. So it's actually intentional that these female protagonists are kind of boring and kind of just bland. They almost have like no personality. They're like a blank slate, and that's so that you, as the audience, can project yourself onto them, and the focus can be mainly on the shipping, on the love triangle, rather than on her as a character. And that's a failing of the love triangle trope. It's just like when it involves a female character being the center of the love triangle, it's just that she just doesn't get a lot of agency and a lot of character development. And it's actually more about the guys and which guy does the audience like more. So that's just a failing on the love triangle trope and YA genre in general. And it shouldn't be so much targeted hate towards Belly. Like, Belly doesn't annoy me as much as it seems like she does other people on the internet, because I get what they're trying to do with this type of character in this genre and this trope. Like, Belly is not like the girl from Never Have I Ever. She's escaping my mind. What was her name? Like, the character, if you watch Never Have I Ever on Netflix, like, she's now a better protagonist and a subversion of this trope that I like. Whereas Belly is just sticking to the same old tropes. Anyway, she's okay to me. So let's talk about some of the side characters. So we had the aunt, who is Susanna's older sister. Who we didn't even know in season one. We didn't even know like Susanna had a sister. So this is our first introduction to her in season two. And there's just all these allusions to how there was unfairness in the family and she was not treated well, and how Susanna was the parents' favorite. So it's like a repeat of what's going on with Jeremiah and Conrad, but in the reverse, where it's the older sibling jealous of the younger sibling. And she's just being hard-headed about selling this house, and everyone is like, why? And there's a lot of resistance to her selling the house. But she comes around in episode 6 or 7, I can't remember. I think one of those two episodes, she comes around when Laurel talks to her, and they convince Conrad and Jeremiah's dad to give up some of the money from the boys' trust to buy back the house, but they worked something out. So they're gonna keep the house. So it all worked out in the end. Yay. And we have an introduction of one of the another character. This is the aunt's uh, daughter, who is a non-binary character named Elsie, and she's cool. She develops like a friendship with the boys over time and with Belly too, and they become a love interest to Cameron. It seems like there's something brewing there, but again, like since the show was so much focused, it's like the grief the boys, especially Conrad, is experiencing and how this affected the love triangle, everyone's reaction to Susanna's passing. There isn't a lot of time for anything outside of that. Like that takes up all the oxygen in the show. It's just about the love triangle and how Susanna's passing affected the love triangle, and characters that were directly connected to Susanna, like Laurel, who is Belly's mom, and who else was affected by Susanna's death? Yeah, it's actually just her sons, Belly and her brother and her mom. So it's just mainly focused on them. Then we have another love story happening in the background, which I actually preferred and I found more interesting than what's going on with Belly and her two brothers love triangle. And that is Steven and Taylor, Belly's best friend. So those two also end up together, and it was just a great development to see their character arc throughout the season, how they went from being kind of like rivals and working out, their feelings for each other and confessing their love for each other, and finally in the final episode they make out, and they're gonna figure it out, like while he's in college, how they'll do the whole long distance thing. So that was it for the side characters. So overall, like I would say season 2 was not as fun and as engaging as season 1 was, because I get it, it was a grieving episode and it was just mainly focusing on how the passing of Susanna affected our main characters, which is like the trio who is in the love triangle, and Laurel, who was her best friend, Belly's mom. And even Steven, like he was not that close to, there's not a lot of focus on Steven either, even though he's supposed to be like one of the core five because he's Belly's brother and Laura's son. But yeah, there isn't a lot of focus on him either. And something else that confused me this season was the relationship between Steven and Jeremiah. Like in season 1, okay, I don't know if I was reading too much into this, but we all know like Jeremiah is bisexual. Yes, a bi king with Stan. And for some reason, I thought that Jeremiah and Steven were gonna were gonna be endgame. Look, people will throw tomatoes on me. There's something about just the way they portrayed their friendship, and with him being bisexual, and with Steven being so scared of girls, and I thought that he was like closeted, and this story was actually gonna be Conrad and Belly getting together and Jeremiah and Steven ending up together. So I don't know. It was just weird in season 2 to see this sudden shift that we had Steven and Jeremiah at least being very close as friends, and it seems like they were best friends. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, like it seems like Steven is all of a sudden so invested in Conrad. They have these hearts to hearts when Conrad has a panic attack in the earlier in the season. It's uh it's Steven who notices and goes up after him when he's out by the beach, and they have this heart to heart, and that's supposed to like be the turning point in their friendship and show us how they're also really tight. But I didn't get that from season 1, so it gave me whiplash. It just seemed to come out of nowhere. And even Steven being so pro Conrad, especially when he was there for Conrad and Belly's relationship tanking like it did. It's just weird. But anyway, yeah, I thought like Steven and Jeremiah were gonna be each other's endgame. I thought they were each other's Belly and Conrad for some reason. Just go back and watch season 1. There's just something about how they framed those two and making Steven like inexperienced and like scared of girls. I thought that was like some queer coding, like I don't know. Anyway, maybe it was just me reading too much into it. But that's my thoughts overall for season 2 of the season the the summer I turned pretty on Amazon Prime. It was not as fun and as enjoyable as season 1, but it feels like a filler season. Like the real the real good stuff is going to come in season 3, and I hope it doesn't take us like 2 years to get a season 3 this time, since things have calmed down with the pandemic and all this. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Let me know in the comments down below, are you happy with how this season played out? Are you happy with Belly's choice? Who do you think Belly will end up with, if you don't already know how it's gonna play out? I do, and I'm happy with the final choice. I actually, season 2 just made me jump ship. It made me change my mind. Like Jerem. I prefer Conrad with Belly, and also Jeremiah. Another thing, this season made me not like Jeremiah as much. I don't know what it was. Somewhere around episode 4 of season 2. Okay, I side with Jeremiah with this thing where it's like Belly should have been there for Jeremiah when he was grieving too. Even if she's not romantically interested in Jeremiah, her and Jeremiah were friends. And I really want people to give as much value and investment into their friendship as they do their romantic relationships. Like this whole idea that romantic relationships are the only relationships worth fighting for and investing in, it needs to go away. So Belly was wrong for not being there for Jeremiah as much as she should have been. Like, even if she's not romantically interested in Jeremiah, just the fact that they were friends, and when you see flashbacks of their friendships and how she talks about how Jeremiah always made her feel included and all this, and how they always had a great time, she should have been there for him. So that was an L that Belly takes. But aside from that, like Jeremiah already knows, and he says it himself explicitly many times throughout the season, that Belly loves Conrad, Conrad loves Belly. And I did like the speech that he did in the finale, where he went and talked to Conrad and told him, like, you two need to have a conversation and lay each other's feelings out. That was mature him. But still, it's like Jeremiah already knows how this is gonna go. So I no longer feel sorry for him. He's kind of looking like a little bit of a loser now. It's like, why do you keep on inserting yourself into this situation that your brother and Belly have going on? You already know this girl is really in love with you'll always be second best. It's like, you're a good looking rich guy. Like, you can find someone else. Like, this season did not do Jeremiah any justice. I don't know, just that combined with, I don't know if it was the actors or it was a decision made by the show just to cool down the Jeremiah and Belly shippers. Just the chemistry was off. I was not feeling their kisses this season either. It wasn't like giving what season 1 pool scene was giving. It's just, I don't know. Jeremiah, they need to do right by you in season 3. But going with what the books, well, according to what the books how it's gonna go, it doesn't look like Jeremiah is gonna have a good time in season 3 either. So I feel like the character assassination of Jeremiah has started sometime around episode 4 of season 2. So it will be really easy if Belly decides to choose Conrad to root for them, because yeah, Jeremiah wasn't giving in this season like he was in the other one.